Hello everyone, how you doing today? Thought I would do a bit of a block tutorial today as well as talk about a couple updates. I've been working a lot on this big carrier. Um, Not a whole lot on the top side from what I showed last time, but let me show you where I'm at the bottom. This is pretty much where all my time went in the last couple days, is really trying to get this area mapped out and all the block work done on it. And yeah, it's been taking a little bit of time, but I'm pretty happy with it at this point. It's There's a lot of breakups and a lot of things going on, and I'm trying some new ideas with like framing and things like that. Stuff I haven't done on past ships. In this case, there's just so much area to fill in that I kind of, when I first built it, I did like a wireframe. I actually did some kind of wireframe on the bottom side as well and kind of charted out like different blocks and areas on it. And that was so I kind of know where the borders are and whatnot. And one of the things I'm trying to pull off is to have it look nice from the side as well. So that's kind of why I did this little this down area over here, and I'm just trying to get like a neat looking side profile. Um, and I'm trying something very different over here as well. Now, this has a conventional hangar door in the middle, and that's a one of the big ones, the 13 by 7 hangar doors. But here, what I'm doing is a double force field. So I'm using the biggest force fields available. I had to custom make this area to fit two of them going across. But basically, it's another big open hangar bay, which you can just fly right in. Thought it would be kind of neat, and this was kind of inspired by some things in Star Wars movies. You see that on some of their landing zones on some of the big ships. So I was trying to kind of go for a similar look on that. Now, as in the tutorial, I want to work on this a little bit more here. And first I'm going to flip this thing completely upside down so I can have good light on it. Um, and yeah, the ship's not super fast, but you know, it's slowing down some, and it's still in combat steel, which is cool because that's going to give me some leeway. If I need to, for whatever reasons, I could always convert the ship to another material, something that's a little lighter, maybe hardened steel. I don't really want to go steel with it, but I'm going to try to keep it combat armor if I can, though. Definitely. It's going to be more down to like the CPU and stuff like that. So obviously in the ship here, I've got some sections that are not filled in yet. Quite a few of them actually. So I wanted to kind of fill one of these in and show you my methods on what I'm doing when I actually do this. Let's get symmetry on real quick though. All right. So let's start with like this chunk over here. Well, to start with, I don't think the inner blocks are needed. Oh yeah, they are. Okay. So what I've been trying to do all along, and you can see by all the breakups throughout the rest of the ship, is to keep on like making new patterns and designs to fill up these chunk areas, like this over here. So I'm gonna border this off real quick and get rid of any blocks that I can in a minute. And we'll say we're just gonna focus on this chunk. Couple things. Now, so I've got a bit of a body line on the sides here. I'm going to try to follow that through for now. So I've been using an awful lot of these wedge blocks. And also keep in mind when I'm placing them, they have to be rotated a particular direction. Like right now, if you can see, and this is a reason why I like to use combat steel, is that you can see the variation in texture. You can see that the face right here is the same face as right here. Now, I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is rotate it so it's opposite. So now I have the faces separated. This is going to give me the ability to color and texture this face differently than this face. And that's why I'm doing this. So I'm going to start here by, I'm going to just lay a row down here. Um, so that is actually a little bit different than what I had over here. That's okay though. Now on the corners here, what I'm going to do is put in one of these blocks, and again I want to make sure that face is separate so I can color each part different. And that'll make a big difference later on when getting into the texturing aspect of it. So let's say we put a border there, and I'm going to do the same thing back over here a minute too. And let's see. Check my face, so that's separated. Oh, no. Yep, that is okay. Alright, so we did that, but that's not enough. I want some more, I want to do more with this in the inside area now. I'm trying to think on what a good pattern might be. Now, most of my patterns so far, I've got some that are going like this direction, some that are kind of faced on the other direction. What could I do here to keep it a little bit different than that? Oh, let's try something. I'm going to do a bit of a area here, and I'm going to use some half blocks going across, but I'm going to separate them by one row right now. But we're only going to do that for a little bit of space. And then I'm going to use some of the really thin blocks in between that. Like that. And of course I want to keep the floor on the other side a solid floor, so I don't want any fluctuation there. Only on this side of the block. Alright, so we did that. Now this back area, I don't want to keep on repeating that same pattern, so now it's time to come up with something a little bit different over here. Tell you what, this might, let's try to get into these blocks here. And I was thinking about creating some kind of frame. We'll see how this all turns out, but here we'll start right there. And then we'll use this corner piece here. Alright, so what else can we do here? Let's again use this block. And I get it rotated the right way again. A lot of times on my first pass I don't like what I'm doing either, so I make some changes after that, but basically you got to start somewhere and then you can keep on refining it until it's something you like. So I don't like my little indentations right over there, but it's not that bad, I guess. Okay, so now on this part, what I'm going to try to do here is rather than indent into the existing blocks, what I'm going to do is add a row on the other side of this block. So right now I'm going to just kind of fill this in, and then my policy for doing this ship and a lot of ships is the hull material, which is this area here, is being the tough material. So right now combat steel. But when I want to add in decorative things like what I did over here, I've been using carbon substrate for that stuff because it's not part of the hull, and any weight or size class I can keep down by doing this kind of thing, the better. So I'm going to take a look at some other unique blocks here. Let's take a look at how this will line up to this. And this is kind of neat because it's basically like adding some geometry lines to your creation. Again, to give it some more detail in the method, right, in the process. In this case, I'm just making like a square frame here. something like that. So again, the only part I really have a problem with is these corners here. I think there's some kind of fix for this. Let me hop in here and grab one of these. So that kind of smooths that off. But now what I've got is this kind of gappy area over here. Let's do the same thing on the back, and then let's replace two of these with one of these again. And oh, better get that rotated right. So now it kind of looks like this is some kind of extra part, and there's some like rivets or something over here. I don't really think I need anything more on the inside. So once I usually get like a section done like this or close to done, I'll just to keep it pretty and quick, I'll replace the textures with all of it with the flat metal texture, and I'll do the very similar with the color. Replace all color, and I've just been using like your standard gray. And I'll do the same thing for the carbon substrate. Okay, so now we've got another little section kind of drawn out here with some more busy work in it. So that's kind of how I've been doing this whole stretch. Now in some areas like here I had to go 2 block layers deep, but this actually lines up to the hangar floor, which is actually another block up from there. So I was able to indent it and kind of create a little bit more depth in those areas. Now on this row here I can't do that though, because it's too close to the bottom. So let's take on one more chunk over here and try to do something again different with this. Now in this area I was thinking about actually having it drop down another block just to create a little bit of waviness on the overall ship, especially when you're seeing it from the side profile. So I've been using a lot of this alternative wedge angle with the ship, and actually a lot of builds, recent builds. I do like this setup. So basically it's a 3-block setup of doing this one and this and then this one. So that will create you a nice angled wedge shape. Now one nice thing about this angle versus the other angle, and the other angle blocks I'm referring to are in page 1, the set of 4 of these. Now the problem with these is texturing. One side doesn't texture right and will overlap, so you can't do a very nice seam with differences in color, where on this wedge shape you can. Like I can paint this side on both the left and right. I could paint this one color, and I could paint this surface here another color, and they will line up, where the other blocks have an issue with that. But you know, I don't want this wedge. Well, let's go up one more bit of a block with this before I stop it from heading this direction. I'm just going to go up just a little bit though. I'm trying to create a bit of fluctuation between that and this piece, so they're both at a slightly different height. Again, for the looks of the side profile, to get some, I don't know, more jagged, a little bit of jaggedness. I won't say a lot, but just some. So now what I'm going to do is reverse that, coming back up this way until it meets. And we can just kind of join this in. Alright, so we did that. Now again, for side profile looks, rather than just putting in full blocks here, what I'm going to do is attempt to do a reverse on it. In other words, I'll invert the angles I'm doing to make a small kind of wedge inside of here. But in this case, I think I'm actually going to want to use, because I don't want it that deep, I'm going to go back to this other angle set, and we'll pop in one of these instead. It is the same side angle. It's going to basically look the same, but what I'm looking to do is get this little wedge in here. So, okay, so we got those two in. Now I could again use this. One other thing I've been trying to do on this ship too. Now it's got a little bit of curved blocks, just a small amount, but I'm trying to avoid high polygon blocks. Due to its extreme size, I just don't want to put in too many high polygon blocks. So I'm using a lot of these basic blocks, a lot of wedges, things like that. Now here I'm looking at doing a pattern, so let's try, let's go in 3, and then in the center here, let's pop in something different here. How about one of these again? Let's make sure I got my separation on that part again. Okay, so we got that, and we'll do the same thing over here. Oop, not that way. Now you can see how the surface across the side is joined right now, and that is not what I want. So I'll show you that in just a second. I'll texture just a bit of this area that was done, and I'll show you why I'm so picky on all these and how these blocks and things come out. Alright, so we got this part done, but let's try to add a little bit more to it. How about some kind of like frame that goes from this piece and meets up to this piece? So there's some other new blocks here too. These this set of these half blocks that are half ramps. So let's say we put one of those there, and I'll grab the alternative for the other side, and then these. Alright. Now, inside area. Again, I want to do something with this. Just to create a body line yet again. So, how about put a row out here. And I'll start with a couple of these. And then, again, more of these here. I'm going to bring those back to a certain point. Actually, I had to fold them in about here. So let's back to this again. Like that. And we can just, I think, run some full blocks here. Okay, so obviously this doesn't meet up with that right now. So let's do something on the edges. We can pop in one of these that will make that nice and smooth. And we'll just put some fulls here as well. Okay, now because I've got this this here, I'm going to need to fill in some of these blocks. A lot of these might get replaced when the interiors are getting done. Now here's something else too I want to say. Now last video when I first, well, second time I showed this kind of, I made mention that CrazyZ is going to work on an area of the ship, like an inside area. That's not all though. Actually, I talked to several other authors over the weekend, and to add to the list that are going to do areas of the ship, we've got T-Rex, Red Baron, XCaliber, and NMK 111. So all of those authors are going to contribute something towards inside areas of the ship. Now it's going to get pretty tricky for me because I'm going to have to section off Once I get the interior layout done, I'm going to have to section off all the different areas, figure out what's there, and then basically send the blueprint out to everybody with those areas marked off for the individual author. So they can work on it at their leisure, and once they're ready, I'll get the blueprint back, I'll copy that chunk of the ship back to the working model, and paste it in place. So I think that'll be a good way to pull this off and make everything work all right. So I just wanted to say something about that too. We're really excited, very, very cool. So this is going to be kind of a co-op project in the end here. Now, of course, yeah, doing all this stuff, I'm just kind of doing what I do here, but beyond that, it is going to be pretty cool seeing a bunch of authors all kind of doing areas of it, and no doubt this thing is just enormous, so especially on the inside. Alright, so I kind of got that area done. Now what I'm not liking is my little lines. I got them cutting off right here, and I've got this weird little jolt here. I don't like that, so I'm going to get rid of the areas that I don't think are very cool right now. And let me just start by putting in one of these again. See if it just goes square. See, that doesn't look so bad. Or I could, again, put in one of these. But I wouldn't want it there, actually. I would want it here. No. Or maybe not one of those. How about one of these? Basically just trying to get a decent angle. You gotta watch it with these blocks though, because they just don't texture quite the same. So I could round that in like that. I don't know. In this case, I almost like just the square better, or not kind of curved. That I think a little bit sharper angles there. Alright, so we kind of build up some walls there. Let's fill in some of this area. Another way I've been making vents, pretty easily with the blocks is, say I'll match this angle with that block there, but rather than putting in its counterpart wedge, which is this here, I'm using this thin one, which creates again another like little ridge line there. Just add in something weird there. But basically the methods I'm doing here is how the entire bottom of the ship was done, and well, a lot of the side areas and stuff too. So this isn't like unusual or anything, but it's basically just hitting each section at a time that's kind of marked off from the wireframe, and then filling it in with something. And I'm just trying to mix that pattern up as much as I, frequently and often, so I can create these weird looking effects and things like that. So on here, what do we do on this last part of this? Thinking of some more kind of lines. Now in this case, this dips down another block row, so I'm thinking I'm actually going to fill in part of that row on the top side as well, so I can get another layer of blocks in here. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of moving that one block away from the edges to create a flat area before it starts doing this framing thing here. And do I just want to go across like this? I probably could. And here, dealing with all half blocks in this section, but let's bring it either up or down, I think. Now let's go back down with it. Let's try another group of these. On the opposite side. And then on the inside here, I'm not sure if I want that deeper yet again or not. Just keep it simple for now. I'll just put in some full blocks here. Now, something else I've been kind of looking at doing here and there too is adding in some little detail stuff, kind of like what I did over here with the carbon substrate blocks over the top. But over here I'm not really giving myself any opportunities to do that because this is a half block and I can't necessarily put anything above those. But that doesn't mean I can't do it to the inside here. So let's take a look at some of these. Happens if we just ran some beams across here. It's alright. Let's try the thinner one. Alright, that could probably work, I think. And then the center here, I don't know if I want to do anything with that. I'll just leave it for now. So let's hit it up. Alright, so now this area from there to there has been filled in. And looking at the side profile again. Yeah, I like those, basically all these little things. You know, like it pops up a little bit there, then it kind of comes across here, pops up a little more, pops up a little more. And one thing to keep it all uniform, to keep the flow going too, is all the angles are relatively the same. And I did the same thing on the top section here as well. So it's always using the 22.5 angles for all of this stuff. Now my next big challenge too, besides filling in these other areas here yet, is to finish up these thrusters, or actually I actually kind of partially thought about redoing them. I more or less like it, but I'm trying to be mindful of blocks too, and I know that this extension coming out like this is wasting potential blocks. Now granted, this thing is really big and it's not going to meet any great size class or anything like that, but doesn't mean I can't be as efficient as I can. So, and I had some crazy ideas too that I actually was thinking about trying to do more of an angled thruster. So say it came out like this and then kind of had a weird angle here. That's just a thought. Haven't quite done that one yet. But basically, I got to make all this fit up in this area. So I got to join up this to make it fit in with this whole other section one way or another. And that's going to take a little bit of time. And I might reserve that for another tutorial too. That's going to get kind of nitty gritty there. But I just kind of wanted to show you the basic methods I've got of what I'm doing with all these individual sections, on how I'm getting these body lines basically right in there. So even without textures, it kind of looks like it's a 3D model already, without like relying on textures to add in detail to it. When you're dealing with really big things, it's a lot easier to do. Smaller stuff it's a lot rougher, because these little half block jolts look a lot bigger on a smaller vessel than they do on something this sized. So that's what I kind of wanted to show you today. and how this is being done, and about how long it takes to do each area here. Um, yeah. So anyway, I'll keep working on this. I also apologize too. I did not get the Marauder out this Sunday, like I said I was going to do. I decided to hold off on this one for a couple more days. Try not to do 2 releases on the same day. That just I started running out of time when I was taking the screenshots for the base, and then there was some other things I had to do. So it's just like, man, I just didn't have time to get this one rolling in the post-built screenshot yet. So I'm gonna hit this one up in a couple days and try to get it out to the public workshop, and that's kind of it. And obviously, I've been trying to really jam on this thing right now to get it to a state where I can send it out to the other authors for their areas. Um, and that can't really happen until I map out the interior as well, or general mapping of the interior, and that's going to take a while. In fact, here, getting in here, you can kind of see the area that's going to need to be occupied. Now, granted, a lot of big chunks of this are going to be hangar down here, but I'm actually debating on whether or not to have like a center mass coming through here down and separate the hangar, at least in these 2 areas, as into 2 different sides. And then that would give me a really neat opportunity to add in the production and crafting kind of as an island in the center area over here. And then there's going to be a lot of balconies. Now you're looking at this all upside down right now, so doesn't make as much sense, but get the idea, I think. It's just going to take a long time to map all this out. As in size class and things right now, and CPU, it's at about 5.5 million CPU. Size class is popping in at 14 right now. I think I'm going to be pretty close on my estimate. I figured by the time I had the body done, it would be about size class 15. And I think that's just about on par right now. So it's not that much more body blocks to fill in. I guess there is a lot on the top too, actually, if I fill in all my holes that I've got over here. And why all these holes are here too, this is just part of like my method. You know, originally these holes were bigger, and I've been trying to space them all out evenly going across here. I've got a couple exceptions to that in this area, but this is kind of like let me know where I'm going to have like frame beams. So when I start doing up the interior of the ship, and doing the same kind of method that I'm doing on the bottom of the ship to the like ceiling of the hangar and different walls and different areas, it's just kind of it's a measuring tool. So I just kind of know where things are going to line up, and that's why I left it that way over there for now. That will all get filled in though once I start getting in the hangar and start getting the hangar ceiling done. And on this carrier here, same idea took place on the ceiling. Let me give this some fuel a minute. So you know, same methods here, and the same idea with the coloring. Having these blocks in certain ways, I can color one surface rather than the other surface and create these separations, which I try to do. Not every block is very friendly with that. Some of these new blocks, unfortunately, I wish they would texture different than they do. The UVs are kind of where I can texture this inside separately, but this surface and this surface texture the same, which was kind of unfortunate because I really wanted to do like color separation here. But if I paint this in, for instance, it hits that surface as well, and I didn't want all of it orange like that, so that's why I didn't do it that way. But those angled blocks, like for instance over here again, how about one of the areas that we just looked at? I could very easily go through and I don't have a right color palette here right now. That can be fixed. One sec. So we want apply to current. Okay, now Now we got the right color palette. Okay, as you can see, what happened on this one is it filled in both, and that is because I used the traditional angled block. Now, but the row that I was talking about that could be painted different is actually this row. And you can see that you got that separation on this edge here. But because I used one of the older wedge blocks here, it'll work on like one side, left or right, but it will not work on the other side. Like on this side here, if I did the same thing, this stays a different color. And that is the problem with working with those blocks, is the difference between right and left kind of mess you up from doing a lot of different detailing and painting. So I might actually swap this block out again, maybe pop in one of these over there, so then I could essentially keep this row separated from the top row. And that block right now is screwing me up. So actually, before I even stop, let me fix that and go with this instead. Okay, so we got that in there. And then I could paint this individually like that and have those lines. And you get a lot of detail out of your paint work too. Like why I like painting with this race so much is because of the differences in colors, creating these kinds of things here. I just think that's kind of cool just to see. And even without texturing it, you're getting a lot of definition in that. Now, when I do texture the ship, I'm going to texture it also MCRN. But keep in mind, the final release might be human with the alternative color pack. And just like on this carrier over here, when I apply this alternative set, it basically looks like it's a human carrier now. I gotta do up some more separation on this. And what I had to do also on this palette is create two more colors over here for runways, because I was just using my base set of colors down here, but then it remaps one of those to a white. So what I've got to do to correct that is use these other colors, even though it's the same shade as another color in the palette, for the separation. So when I do recolorize it, the runways stay the same color as what they should be and not turn white like this. And I got to do the same thing to these side pieces here too, and the internal parts, or anything that I basically want to keep dark on it, even though after I convert the colors over to the other theme. So it'll be the same case with this one. I'll do the journal painting and the Martian scheme, and then I can easily convert it over to the human scheme, and it can serve as both. And I think that's just the best way to go on this. But anyway, I hope you have a good day. Thinking either tomorrow or Wednesday I'll try to get another tutorial out on something. Probably going to keep on jamming on this ship and do different parts of it. I might save this area, which is going to be tricky and probably one of the more complicated things to do on the ship, for a tutorial. And I'll try to figure out what's going on with that and try to build up thruster housings and get them to attach to the ship and filled in and all look right. That's some of the more trickier stuff when you're building. I'm sure most of you have realized that too, trying to get multiple different angles and shapes to join together and look right. All right, see you later all.